All right, let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
Jared Anderson is not in an easy position. 23 years of age, and he's fighting in the big man's division. 23 is young for a pro heavyweight, and there's no turning back for him now. He's fought a fringe contender like Charles Martin, so it's just go forward from now. Up against a 37-year-old who apparently stayed in the gym after his last win against Devin Vargas, August last year, which was a knockout win. He stayed in the gym preparing in case an opportunity popped up like this, and it came. Jared knocked down Charles with an overhand right in round 3. He showed a good jab, which he doesn't have the patience to use as much as he needs to use it. Tim Bradley said Jared needs to use the jab because it was forcing Charles Martin to reset, which he didn't want to do. All that extra movement for an aging fighter, a slower fighter, like too much hard work, innit? Martin caught him with some good shots that made Jared have to think about what was going on. I don't think he was hurt that bad. Got his chin tested. But, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, he's trash, he's this, he's that. But he's a 23-year-old going against a former champion, and you can say beating Glashkov doesn't mean nothing, but you still got to go handle the occasion, and you still got to bring the belt back to St. Louis. And he did that. He's fought Glashkov, who was undefeated when Charles beat him, 21-0-1. Charles, on the come-up, also beat Alexander Flores, who was 14-0, a 10-0 Glendy Hernandez. So he hasn't had it easy. Yeah, he got blown out by Anthony Joshua in 2. Some people say that this performance by Charles Martin, giving Anderson a few, let's say, scares, taking him the distance, gives the value of Joshua's win over Martin a little appreciation. Anderson is one of the hottest prospects contenders out there. So maybe that appreciates on Joshua's resume. But look, you know, like I said, I've pointed out he's fought the likes of Glashkov, Joshua, Adam Kawanacki when he was 17-0 and gave him a good fight. You're going to say Kawanacki trash as well? Because some people just say everyone's trash after an indifferent performance. It's a different time. It's basically a lot of people have attention deficit with the event of the internet and social media and being able just to go from one source of entertainment to the next, to the next, to the next. They just don't have the patience to analyze things. So he's trash, everyone's trash, and that's how they break boxing down. So yeah, Adam Kawanacki, that was a good performance. He also knocked out Gerald Washington, had Luis Ortiz on the floor a couple of times. He's not a bad fighter. He's got a lot more experience than Anderson in the ring and, more importantly, in the gyms. An integral part of Charles Martin's team, and has been from day one, is Henry Tillman, an Olympic gold medalist who beat Mike Tyson twice in the Olympic trials as an amateur. Tyson avenged the wins in the pros, but Tillman was a good fighter, very experienced. So when you're talking about someone like Charles Martin, he's done all the rounds in the gym for years and years. Just the experience of sparring that Charles Martin has had in comparison to Anderson helps him bridge the gap when they get in the ring against Anderson's speed, athleticism, and power. There's stuff that he knows about boxing that most 23-year-olds just can't possibly know because they just haven't been in the sport long enough. And that's what you saw yesterday. You saw a big, experienced guy, knows what a hard punch is like. He knows what it's like. He's been there. He's tasted it. He stayed in the gym from his last performance. Former world champion. He's been bounced from the PBC to ESPN, and there ain't going to be much more opportunities to fight prospects / contenders like this on the big stage. So he had to perform. He had to satisfy himself, his family. They've got to eat. There was a lot on the line, and he wasn't just going to go over like that. There's a lot of factors into why we saw what happened yesterday. And I always said, we really don't know what Jared Anderson is like until he faces a big man with a big jab. And we didn't see that until yesterday. And we saw he's just human. He's developed this aura, at least in his own mind, that he's this big puncher. And while he's not slapping with his power shots, this was probably the wake-up call to him and his coach. That, yo, we got to get Jared boxing and moving a lot more. Because if you gamble trading with these guys who are a little more ambitious than Charles Martin, you're going to get caught out. I said Charles Martin would probably mentally crack and then fall apart. And he did, in a way, but not in the way I envisioned. Because he went the distance and tagged Anderson in the last round. But Charles seemed to switch off when he got into the fight. He switched off. He couldn't maintain the tempo that he had in them good rounds between, let's say, 4 and 6. And that's where the fight was lost. Anderson scored a knockdown, a right hand over the top. It was a genuine knockdown, but he landed a little high up and Charles got straight back up like it was no big deal. You know, people are saying that Anderson shouldn't pull his head back from punches. It's not as easy as people are saying, you know. Boxing's a tough sport, and if you're getting away with stuff that you're comfortable doing, it's not until you're knocked down or knocked out as a result of pulling your head back rather than moving to the side of the shots. The only way you can really learn them lessons is to get your hand burned on the stove. And, you know, like, if that's a habit you have, maybe you get rid of it, or maybe you try and perfect the move. Study the tape. Look at the pros and cons. Maybe you only pull back if you're at a certain angle or from certain punches. But, you know, you see him being cradled by his mum. Pressure's getting to the kid. He's 23 years of age. The pressure's getting to him. He had the meltdown with Roy Jones during the week. Jared after claimed that he wanted it to go the distance. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. That's an obvious response to the reality. He couldn't get Martin out there. No matter how he tried, he couldn't get him out of there. Where does he go next? Well, he's a top 10 heavyweight now. In most of the sanctioning bodies, that's where he goes from here. Only the IBF don't have him ranked. There's lots of people out there though. Bakoli, Makhmudov, Ruiz. That's the fight I'd like to see, is Ruiz and Anderson. That's the one I'd like. There's loads of fights out there for him. Loads. Let's see how ambitious Top Rank are with their matchmaking from here. Will they try and de-accelerate the train after getting taken the distance by Charles Martin? To me, that's not a major crisis, but you never know how these promoters react when they find out their prospect/contender isn't quite the finished article they may have thought they were. Dalton Smith, he won the Lonsdale belt outright and added the Commonwealth title to his collection, knocking out Sam Maxwell. Spectacular knockout. But, you know, Sam Maxwell, he's a decent pro. In all truth, he got a gift against Akeem Ennis-Brown. He was stopped in the Echo Arena attempting to lift the IBO World Super Light Welterweight title against Alexandro Menezes. He was stopped in 9 rounds. Came back with a win over Sean Cooper, 6-rounder. And was really no match for Dalton Smith, who managed to pick up a bad cut around that right eye. And he's had issues with cuts. But he's 15-0, and it was a spectacular finish. And he was hurting Maxwell pretty much all throughout the fight, looking for the big right hand. And that's why he got cut, because he was looking for that big right hand and sometimes abandoned the jab. And their heads came together as they were both looking to land big shots. So that scar tissue could be a problem in terms of how far he can go beyond European and world level. But, yo, great right hand. Great right hand. Savannah Marshall versus Frenchon Cruz. Commentary was a little biased on Sky. I would concede that Savannah probably took most of the rounds, but it was such a scrappy fight. Like, the styles clashed. Savannah often crouched down to Frenchon's height. And then Frenchon burrowed in, and there was clumsy exchanges all night. Horrible fight to watch. And yeah, the commentary was a bit biased that Savannah ran away with it when few clean punches landed all throughout. Savannah's jab was probably a little more accurate. And I think the pro Savannah Marshall fans who wanted her to win, saying she ran away with it, probably exaggerating a little. Yo, she done well. She's undisputed. Frenchon took the chance, traveling over here. One of the judges had it 95-95. I thought it was close, but, you know, the right person won. There's no way Frenchon could have expected to travel back to America with her belts with that performance. Very scrappy. Savannah's power at this level seems to have just evaporated from the Clarissa Shields fight to this one here. And whatever made her special is not showing up in the last 2 fights. Although a win was imperative here, and she got that. I said it would be a close fight, and to me it was a close fight. I like to put this fight behind me and not see it again, you know. But well done to Savannah Marshall. Clarissa Shields turning up at the post-fight press conference was the most memorable moment of the event. But we put a full stop on that one. There was another fight I saw between the powerful Makhmudov versus Rafael AKPEJORI. a 6'8" Nigerian heavyweight. He looks the part, looked in shape against the 34-year-old MAKHMUDOV. MAKHMUDOV has no foot speed, and the taller, rangier Rafael had no jab, had no movement. Instead, he tried to meet MAKHMUDOV head on to land these big right hands. MAKHMUDOV done well to smother them out, so he's not a total idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. They were once talking about Rafael AKPEJORI fighting Anthony Joshua in Nigeria. Big showdown. I laughed it off after watching him a couple of times. He was 15-0 going into this, 14 inside the distance. MAKHMUDOV is now 17-0 with 16 inside the limit. Basically, Rafael got mugged off in the inside, didn't he? Like, you know, fought the totally wrong fight. Didn't really know what he was doing. First time that he's been in with anyone decent. I mean, his last opponent was 7-11-2. The opponent before that was 28-51-9. Both losing records. In fact, he's only fought about 2 or 3 opponents in his career with winning records, looking at the whole resume. So it was no surprise he got blown over here. MAKHMUDOV manhandled him in the inside. An uppercut went in there that seemed to turn his legs to rubber. A big overhand right as MAKHMUDOV broke free from one of the clinches, put Rafael on the canvas, and he gamely tried to slug with MAKHMUDOV. But, you know, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know how to top effectively. There was no movement. There was no jab. There was no skill. And MAKHMUDOV just way too physically imposing. Landed crude overhand rights and bludgeoned him on the ropes. Another knockdown was scored in round 1. The bludgeoning continued in round 2. Rafael not learning his lessons. I mean, let's keep it real. Most people cannot stand in the pocket with MAKHMUDOV like that, you know what I mean? And Rafael just didn't have the speed to beat him to the punch. MAKHMUDOV timed him with that right uppercut again. Rafael's legs went all over the place, and it was just a matter of time. Rafael complained about rabbit punches, and yeah, there was some punches that were on the periphery of illegal, but that's because Rafael locked up with him, and all was there was rabbit punches for MAKHMUDOV, and you don't want to take them big roundhouse rights on the back of your head. Another left hook put him down, and the referee just waved it off. You know, Rafael was just winging and swinging, like it just like it was what it was, man. It was what it was. Easy win for MAKHMUDOV. Why is the Fury taking this guy on? Take MAKHMUDOV on, and then go fight USYK in December. MAKHMUDOV should be easy if you're as good as Muhammad Ali. If MAKHMUDOV was AJ's mandatory, I'd expect AJ to take that. Like any suggestion of ducking, I'd be mortified. Not saying you can hang your chin out with this guy, of course not, but bloody hell. For the most part, Frank Warren in the last 9 years has been playing catch up to Eddie Hearn. So when Eddie Hearn started recruiting a lot of women boxers, and that became a success, Frank signed up Nicola Adams, who had previously dismissed Frank Warren for disrespecting women's boxing. When Carl Froch did the 80,000 at Wembley around 2014, that signalled the changing of the guard on who was the top promoter in the United Kingdom. Then a couple of years later, when Anthony Joshua was doing them stadium fights regular and breaking pay-per-view records, and Frank's business was put up for public consumption on Company's House, it changed the dynamic. Let's say Fury has been Frank Warren's most lucrative draw. Fury beat Klitschko for the 3 belts late 2015. He ran into a lot of issues and wasn't able to get back in the ring until 2018. And since then, it's been, okay, let's try leverage tactics to see if we can get on par with Anthony Joshua. So let's fight Deontay Wilder rather than fighting AJ. Let's avoid USYK and fight NGANNOU. Let's see if we can get this stadium fight and this much amount of pay-per-view buys to let them know that we're bigger than AJ. And it's just became a pissing contest for Frank and Fury rather than make the fights that the boxing world want to see. Undisputed against USYK. According to Eddie Hearn, the Francis Ngannou fight will be an exhibition. In other words, they're not going to risk Ngannou trying to get licensed in case he pops for some dubious substance. Because you know, there's a lot of rumors about MMA. Yeah, I said it, and I'm not going to take it back. But I think the main reason it will be an exhibition bout, if it does go ahead, is so they can make some form of hybrid fight to maybe even it out a little. Would it take place in a cage or a ring? What kind of gloves will they use? Boxing gloves or MMA gloves? The MMA gloves will allow them to clinch and grapple, but how far will they go with the grappling, which would, you assume, disadvantage Tyson Fury? They're asking a few of these questions on DAZN. Will takedowns of grappling be allowed? Because if it's strictly Queensberry rules, then, you know what I mean, like, what's the curiosity in that? There's no way Ngannou is going to win. So, no undisputed fight this December, and from what it looks like, no time soon into 2024. Mauricio Sulaiman not issuing Tyson Fury no mandatories, so he doesn't give a shit, obviously. They're saying that Dillian has signed a contract. They've removed the rematch clause. AJ said to Eddie he doesn't need a rematch clause to fight Dillian. And he's right. He doesn't need a rematch clause to fight Dillian. If you lose, you lose. Move on. Like Dillian said, move on. I think there's a possibility that Eddie could be out of sync with AJ and Derek James. They want the Dillian Whyte fight. They want to stay busy. They want to continue their development. Eddie, trying to appease his interests at Matchroom and DAZN, he doesn't want the fight. He doesn't want that fight because he knows anything can happen. Not because AJ is as mentally as damaged as some people like to write about or so vulnerable and all that shit. Not because of that. Because it's boxing. And anyone, on any day, could fumble the bag. So Jermall Charlo, I don't know. I have to assume that his career is finished unless he can prove me wrong. He says he can't get in shape to fight Canelo. He can't get in shape. So his brother, the 154-pound undisputed champion, will take his place. He's been inactive, but unlike his brother, it's due to injury, a hand injury. So he'll be moving up to 168. His fans are complaining that, oh, he's moving up 2 weight classes. Dude, come on, man. If Emil Griffith, from 147 to 154, he was the first ever light middleweight champion. He beat Dick Tiger to become a 3-weight champion at 160, take on the likes of Carlos Monzon for the title, fight the likes of Benny Briscoe and beat Benny Briscoe, Alan Minter. It should be a cakewalk for Jermall Charlo to move up to 168. Come on, man. It's nothing. It's minor. It's minor. It's minor. Let's not forget, Canelo didn't start at 168 or 175. How old is Jermall now? He's in his 30s. He was surely due a move up in weight anyway. Jermell's fans are moaning that Canelo's trying to take advantage of him because he's inactive. How much is he getting paid again? I mean, what was he going to do? He probably wasn't going to take a tune-up anyway. I'm not convinced about the hand injury. I'm not sure if he wanted to fight Tim Tszyu. Not because he's scared of Tim Tszyu. But there is a risk taking on a quality challenger like Tim Tszyu if you're tight at the weight. And I believe he's tight at the weight. Yeah. So here's a good chance to move up and make some serious dough. No more complaining. It's a good opportunity to see if he can become a 2-time undisputed champion. It's a great opportunity. Bitching and complaining is the last thing I should be hearing from anybody. I haven't heard Jermell complain. He knows it's a great opportunity. Let him do what he's supposed to do.